Second time, la segunda vez. Second time this week. Ay. Ok. A ver, gracias, Karen. Ok, a ver. Bien, I think we did the, help refresh my memory, guys, and keep me honest. We did these pieces last week, right? Sí, correcto, sí.
We had the last one, I think, to do. The third page.
Sí, eso es, sí. Okay, bien. Yeah, let's pull that puppy apart. Okay, vamos a empezar. We're going to begin with that. Y es un repaso más o menos de expresiones con reflexivo. ¿Se usa reflexivo? ¿No se usa reflexivo? ¿Cuál es? Which one might it be? Do we use reflexive? Do we not use reflexive? What might that be? Pueden ver la pantalla. Can you see our screen with the big ideas here? See? Fill them in boxes? Okay. So let's look at our choices from the top. And remember, these are all conjugated as they need to be. Okay. Okay. Te despides. Te despides. Despedirse. ¿Qué quiere decir? What does it mean? ¿Qué quiere decir despedirse?
Say goodbye.
To say goodbye, right? To take your leave of somebody, okay? To say goodbye. But despiden without any kind of pronoun in front of it means you dismiss, you order somebody out. Can't even mean you fire them. Often means you fire somebody, you let them go, literally, like forever. Okay. We've got a verb, and I'm looking right across the top. Lava. ¿Qué es lava?
Wash.
Wash. ¿Reflexivo, sí o no?
No.
Sí,
No.
not
No.
not lava, but lavar.
Sí, lava es wash. Una cosa, ¿sí? El cuerpo, no. Lava. Una cosa, ¿bien? Por ejemplo, platos, el carro, algo así. Ok. Encuentras a la derecha, muy a la derecha, way over on the right. That word encuentras. ¿Reflexivo o no?
No.
No, ok.
No.
Encuentras viene de encontrar. Encontrar es to find. Encuentras, you find something. Okay, bien. We've got te arreglas, where I'm looking at my middle column now. Te arreglas. ¿Reflexivo, sí o no?
Sí.
Sí.
Sí. Okay. Arreglar
To fix
or arrange something. Yeah. Fix, arrange, set up, but arreglarse, to get yourself fixed up, to get yourself ready for something. Okay, to get yourself ready for something. Okay, vale. Te pierdes. ¿Reflexivo o no?
Sí.
Sí, reflexivo. Te pierdes, literally to lose yourself, to get lost. You get lost in this case. Te pierdes, you get lost. Okay. Vas.
No.
No es reflexivo. Vas, you go. Pruebas.
You try.
To try. Sí, exacto. Sí, muy bien. Pruebas. To try, to test something out. It might be you're trying it with a sip or a taste. It might be you're trying on clothing to see if it fits. It might even be you're just testing something out. ¿Te llamas reflexivo o no?
Sí.
Sí. You call yourself, your name is. Te pruebas. Kind of, yeah, you test yourself. Te vas. You
Yes.
take off. Reflexivo, sí. Es reflexivo, te vas Y te vas es como you take off, you get out of here, ¿ok? Llamas.
No,
Llamas
no reflexive.
no es reflexivo. You call a person. You may be, oye, Paco, or por teléfono, ¿no? Bien, te preparas. Can mean you fix something for yourself, or that, again, kind of like te arreglas. You get yourself prepared. You get yourself
It
ready.
stunk in there yesterday.
Okay.
There's something wrong.
Bien. A ver, vamos a ver. Tenemos 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 frases, 8 preguntas. Mejor decir que tenemos aquí 8 preguntas. En la primera pregunta, antelación es como ahead of time, ¿sí? Con mucha antelación antes de salir a trabajar o a estudiar o estudiar. Do you do something way ahead before going out to work or study?
Te preparas.
¿Te preparas? Works there?
¿Te arreglas?
¿Te arreglas? Sí. Do you get yourself ready? Do you get yourself prepared? I think you could use either one there, really. ¿Sí? Bien. Okay. ¿Consideras que algunos jefes, do you consider that some bosses, boom, 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 injustamente a sus empleados? Despiden. Do you think some bosses fire their employees
Okay.
unfairly, injustamente, unjustly? Is that a word? Es una palabra en inglés, no sé.
Yeah.
Sin causa, sin buena causa, without a good cause, ¿sí? Bien. Ok, vale. Boom, un verbo. Siempre lo que buscas en el supermercado. Do you always do something? Lo que buscas, what you're looking for en el supermercado.
Encuentras.
Do you always find? Encuentras siempre lo que buscas. Do you always find what you look for en el supermercado? Un verbo. Boom. Número 4. Como alguien de tu familia.
Te despides.
Like somebody from your family. Te llamas. Are you called like? Te llamas como alguien de tu familia. Are you named like somebody in your family? Okay. And we would never phrase it as, do you call yourself like, but that is technically the way it translates, but we don't use that turn of phrase in English. See? Te llamas como alguien de tu familia. And one of our little clues is that tu familia piece, your family, meaning you're talking to somebody on a friendly basis. And we couldn't plug in te pierdes, you get lost like somebody in your family. No. We can't say, do you go like somebody in your family? No. Do you get ready like somebody in your family? No. Okay, vale. Boom. Un verbo aquí. Toda la ropa, all the clothing. Toda la ropa de comprarla o haces excepciones.
Te pruebas.
Yeah.
Te pruebas probably makes a little more sense. Do you try it on your body? Yeah. Te pruebas toda la ropa antes de comprarla. You try on all the clothes before buying it, or do you make exceptions? Okay. Como boom, a tu centro de trabajo o estudios.
Como vas?
Vas.
You go.
¿Cómo vas a tu centro de trabajo o estudios? How do you go to your workplace, centro de trabajo, or study place, study area? ¿Por qué no es te vas?
Estebas.
To go.
Esto es complejo. This is a little complex. Te vas is usually used without an a tu centro, without an a and a place. Usually te vas is just by itself. Okay?
Like me voy.
Like me voy. I'm out of here. Like you've been having lunch with your friend, seated at a nice little cafe. Your friend suddenly gets up and you say, "Ay, te vas? Hey, are you getting out?" Right? Te vas or me voy or nos vamos is usually used by itself without saying al parque, al supermercado, a casa. Te vas or nos vamos is used without a place pegged on after it, generally just by itself in most cases. Okay. El penúltimo, sí, second to the last. Verbo por teléfono, by phone. Por teléfono con frecuencia a alguien especial.
Llamas.
Sí.
Llamas por teléfono actually should have like an hablas. I wouldn't use con frecuencia. Llamas por teléfono con frecuencia a alguien especial. Sí, con frecuencia. Frequently, right? Frequently. Llamas por teléfono con frecuencia a alguien especial. You call somebody special often con frecuencia, with frequency. And we would never say with frequency, but that's a way of saying that in Spanish.
Frequently.
See,
Yeah.
and here's another frequently, but I'm going to be honest with you. A menudo does also mean often, like con frecuencia means often, but de veras, really? De veras? No se usa tanto. I don't really hear people using a menudo all that often.
It's
but
used a lot on Duolingo, though.
Yes.
Duolingo does like it, but
They like
I think, well, and maybe that's just a Latin American thing. I don't know. No sé. Pero, boom, 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 verbo, acción, acción, a menudo platos de otros países.
Pruebas. Pruebas.
Pruebas.
Oh,
Pruebas a menudo.
Yeah.
Do you try out? And you're not putting the clothing or clothing, what am I saying?
The food.
Platos. You're not putting the platos on here. It's just pruebas. Pruebas. You got to use the, sí.
What about preparadas? Wouldn't that work too?
Pruebas.
yeah, I thought of that too.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I.
¿Cuál?
Preparas?
Oh, preparas a menudo. Sí, eso también. Sí, eso también. That too. Hay dos posibilidades.
But you wouldn't say
Te
te preparas, would you? You would say tú preparas or just preparas.
Lo normal, preparas a menudo. Okay, so what you're keying into with a lot more accuracy is whether or not some of these wind up being reflexives. Bien? Bien.
Sí.
Excelente. Okay.
So Marilyn,
Sí.
I got a question on the page before this one.
Sí.
In other words, the next to the last page. Did I understand on number 7, cuántas veces al día, and was it te lavas la cara?
Te lavas.
Washing your face.
Okay, so this is where I got confused.
Okay.
I didn't understand that it was a reflexive because you're not doing it to yourself, you're doing it to the face.
But that is you. It is you, Federico. Sí.
So any body part that you're hung on to is you, huh?
Eso. Exacto.
Okay.
Exacto. Okay, Federico, think of it this way. Reflexive can also mean it's involving maybe not my whole body, like, sometimes it is your whole body, like, me levanto, me siento. Bien? Okay. And that's my whole body doing that, right? But often it is a part of your body, like lavarse, like afeitarse la cara. If you're a guy, right? Afeitarse la cara, shave your face. Reflexivo. ¿Cómo? Ponerse. Por ejemplo.
Oh, I
No,
see.
mejor. Aún mejor. Even better. Momentito. Voy a demostrar. Ay, bien. Mis zapatos. ¿Sí? Mis zapatos.
Okay.
Me pongo los zapatos. I put
Okay.
my shoes on. I'm not putting a shoe in my whole body in a shoe. I'm only putting my foot. But how often do you say in English, I'm putting my foot in my shoe? No, you say, I'm putting on my shoe. And you may only bring up your foot if your foot has a problem, right? The foot kind of stays out of the sentence as a whole, right? I put my shoes on, boom. I put my shoes on my feet. Bueno, sí. Me pongo los zapatos en los pies. Sí. Pero muy común, me pongo los zapatos. Boom. Nada más. Nothing else. Me pongo los zapatos. Everybody knows where you're putting those shoes. And they're not here. They're down on the feet, right? So it can absolutely be a part of your body. If a lady puts on a necklace, me pongo el collar. And she's only putting the necklace around, but en el cuello, bien? Around your neck.
Mhm.
So it can involve only one part of your body. La cara, maybe it. Los manos, maybe it. Or las manos, maybe it. Las manos.
Okay.
¿Sí? Bien?
Oh, yeah. Clearly a concept you covered 3 or 4 months ago that I'm just now getting. But,
It doesn't matter when the light goes on, just that it goes on. It does not matter when. Sometimes you process it and it goes on. It's like, oh, that's great. See, me lavo las manos. There you go. Yeah. Me lavo la cara. Bien. Susana.
Yeah, when you're using reflexive, like you were using with the shoes, you don't say my shoes. You don't say mis zapatos. You say los zapatos. Me pongo, could you say mis zapatos?
Me pongo los zapatos. Sí se puede. You could. Okay. ¿Cuándo? Por ejemplo, si hay confusión, if people have like all the same kind of shoes.
Mhm.
Me pongo mis zapatos. Sí, es posible. Por lo general, me pongo los zapatos, usually.
All right, thank you.
And that's one of those things you just get a feel for as you go along. It's kind of like saying, sí, me lavo las manos. People will not say me lavo mis manos. They will not say I wash my hands.
Even though that's what they're doing.
It's
They just don't say it that way.
me lavo las manos, and it's just the hands for parts of the body. And sometimes articles of clothing, it's often just left that way, unless there's confusion, like everybody's got similar colors or,
Okay, gracias.
something. Okay, buenas preguntas. ¿Hay más o no?
Gracias.
No, ok. Vamos a empezar entonces con algo muy fácil, pero es es algo muy práctico. It's something very, very practical. Es algo muy práctico. ¿Cómo se dice? ¿Cómo se expresa? ¿Cómo se expresa? How does one express? ¿Cómo se expresa meanings? La idea de mean. I mean, you mean. What does it mean? Mean. Not mean like mean, but you know, what does this mean? Hay varias cosas. Okay, this has nothing to do necessarily with reflexives, pero no. Pero vale la pena. This is worth kind of thinking about a little bit and listening. Y es breve and it's brief. Okay, a ver. Pueden verlo. Can you hear him? For the English part.
His lips aren't moving.
Welcome to a new episode of
No, it's very, very
Minutos.
uh,
In this episode, we're going to
Soft?
soft.
Oh, okay. Let's try. Gracias. Okay. You'll have to get used to the Aussie accent that he does with the English part of it, but the rest of it he has is very, very good. Okay.
talk about a really important Spanish phrase, quiere decir. Now,
Quiere decir. Quiere decir.
I want to say.
Want to say, but that's not really the way we use it.
We're trying to say.
Quiere decir means. Por ejemplo, taza quiere decir cup. Bien. Por ejemplo, ratón quiere decir mouse. Bien. Vale. Bueno, por ejemplo, botella quiere decir bottle. Okay. Quiere decir. The way to translate the idea of means is a two-word phrase. Often. There's another one you can use. He's going to show you. So whereas we use one word, means, they often put together this two-word phrase, and that is just the way they express that idea of means. Quiere decir, wants to say. So he's going to elaborate on
now,
it.
I love hearing students use this phrase because it doesn't translate so well from English. So let's get started. Vamos. In Spanish, if you want to ask what something means, like a word you're unsure about, you can ask, what does this word mean? ¿Qué quiere decir esta palabra?
And that's the question. ¿Qué quiere decir esta palabra? What does this word mean? And literally that says, what does the word want to say? But yeah, see, so you were right when you translated that. See, want to say, but that's not the idea that two-word combo really expresses. ¿Qué quiere decir? What does it mean?
¿Qué quiere decir esta palabra? Now, students will often ask, what's the difference between quiere decir and significa? And the answer
Significa signifies, but it also can translate as mean. So he's going to show you when you can use them in the same way and when maybe you shouldn't. Okay, quiere decir, significa.
The answer is, in this context, they are completely interchangeable. So we can also ask, what does this word mean? ¿Qué significa esta palabra?
That's also an okay way to express that question. They're both correct. ¿Qué quiere decir esta palabra? ¿Qué significa esta palabra? Yo personalmente prefiero ¿qué quiere decir esta palabra? What does it mean? I prefer quiere decir. That to me feels more natural. Probably just because of the number of people I talk to, that's what we use. Okay. Significa, I think of as like for bigger ideas. I think he gets into that in the last minute or so of his video, but it is okay to express this idea either as ¿qué significa? What does it mean? Or ¿qué quiere decir? And then, so this is how they are alike, and then he'll get a little into how they are different.
¿Qué significa esta palabra? Now, it doesn't have to be a word or phrase. We can also use both quiere decir and significa to ask about an idea. What does that mean? ¿Qué significa eso? ¿Qué significa eso? ¿Qué significa eso? And again,
That's from a popular TV show, by the way, which I am almost done with on Netflix, Casa de Papel. And this is, significa, you would use more to talk about like the big picture kind of question. Yeah. The player is not, they didn't use that play on the football field. What does that mean? Significa plugs in because, what does that mean? Does that mean they're trying something sneaky? They're trying something new? They're bluffing? Yeah, it's a more big picture mean.
we can absolutely swap this for quiere decir. So what does that mean? ¿Y eso qué quiere decir? And with an accent from Spain, ¿y eso qué quiere decir? ¿Y eso qué quiere decir? Okay, in contrast, quiere decir and significa are not always interchangeable. So for example, if you want to ask someone after they've just explained something, hey, what do you mean? As opposed to asking about a word or an idea, then we should only use quiere decir, but we'll need a different conjugation of querer. So what do you mean? ¿Qué quieres decir?
Oh, what do you mean? Now we have to conjugate it for tú. If you're talking to a friend, right? If you're talking to somebody formally, quiere decir again, but quieres decir. ¿Qué quieres decir? What do you mean?
¿Qué quieres decir? Now here we should avoid ¿qué significas, which is kind of an existential question in Spanish. It's kind of like asking what someone's life means, like their existence on this planet, instead of asking them specifically about what they are talking about.
Okay, yeah. So do you understand what he's talking about, the difference? ¿Qué significas has a really different connotation way out from ¿qué quieres decir? ¿Qué quieres decir? What do you mean?
Is it que significas? Do you conjugate that or?
You're not going to hear that very much at all. You're not. No. Why not? Because when the idea I want to express is somebody is explaining how they're fixing a part of your car. I take this, I tighten this, I loosen that, they've gone through 5 steps. And then you say, wait a minute. What do you mean? ¿Qué quieres decir? ¿Qué quieres decir? You would never use in that situation, ¿qué significas? That wouldn't make any sense. It's the wrong context. What do you mean when you don't understand what somebody said? When you don't understand what somebody said and you want them to clarify their idea, to clarify their explanation, to explain something further, then it's got to be, ¿qué quieres decir? What do you mean? Hey, what do you mean?
If you said ¿qué significas, you're kind of asking somebody like, what's the meaning of life or something? What is that what you're saying?
And thus somebody would give you a weird look if you asked that question. Yeah.
Just like in English, they would.
Okay. So, because what you want to convey, the idea you want to get across is, I don't understand what you just explained to me. ¿Qué quieres decir? What do you mean? Okay. You want clarification. So, ¿qué significa is not interchangeable in that situation. Hey, what do you mean? What does he mean? What do they mean? What does the professor mean? ¿Qué quiere decir? Okay, what's he trying to say? In the context of what is somebody trying to say, because you don't understand them, ¿qué quiere decir? And conjugating quiere in the right form.
For example, when you're explaining yourself to someone else, you might want to ask at the end to confirm that they understand you, hey, do you know what I mean? ¿Sabes lo que quiero decir? ¿Sabes lo que quiero decir?
And lo que just means what. It's a little 2-word phrase. ¿Sabes lo que quiero decir? Oh, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? You understand what I'm explaining? Eso es. Bien?
Okay, let's practice this together. I don't understand what he means. Is this what an idea means or what someone means? This is what someone means. So, no entiendo lo que quiere decir. No entiendo lo que quiere decir. Now, this means that I'm not available on the weekend. Is this what an idea means or what someone means? This is what an idea means, so it means we can use both. Esto quiere decir que no estoy disponible el fin de semana. O esto significa que no estoy disponible el fin de semana. Okay, bonus tip. Students often ask me, if quiero decir means I mean, how do we say I want to say? And the answer is that we can use the same phrase in Spanish. It's simply context which tells us the difference. So for example, I want to tell you something. Literally, I want to tell you a thing. Te quiero decir una cosa. Te quiero decir una cosa. Okay, I know I've given a few examples today using lo que, which is a really tricky phrase in Spanish. If you're unsure about that phrase, check out our
And don't worry about the lo que, yeah. But a lot of times we want to ask, what does somebody mean? And the way you say that somebody means something is usually quiere decir. I would always, I don't use significa all that much. Personalmente no lo uso muchísimo porque por la mayoría quiere decir es mejor. Quiere decir usually gets my idea across easier than that whole significa thing. But if you're talking about big picture things, significa may work, may absolutely work, depende. But it's kind of nice to know that there are a couple of things that you might use. And sometimes significa is okay if you're only asking for a definition, or you only need to know, like, what's the Spanish word for this thing? What's the Spanish word for this thing, right? You could say significa, you could use quiere decir, then it's interchangeable if you need just a translation kind of word. Okay, está bien.
Sí.
Está bien. Okay. Excelente, excelente. Vamos a ver. Vamos a hablar o quiero hablar. Quiero hablar. No, quiero decir. Quiero hablar un poquito sobre el video. I want to talk a little about the video. Sí, el video del café. Del café. Ok. A ver, del café. Y hay mucho vocabulario aquí. Bueno, y voy a compartir la pantalla aquí con la información. Tienen una frase del día. They have a sentence of the day. And it usually comes at the end. Pero esto es muy interesante, es muy interesante. Como agua de calcetín, like sock water. Como agua de calcetín, like sock water. You know, calcetín would be one sock. Yeah, see? Cuando una salsa, café, té o sopa no tiene muchos no tiene mucho sabor, ¿sí? It doesn't have a lot of flavor to it. Tiene un color feo. No tiene sal. Necesita azúcar. Algo así, sí. Se dice como agua de calcetín. When something is really watered down, when a liquid kind of drink or food is very watered down and diluted, and not enough spice, not enough sweetness, not enough something. Blah, real blah. Es como agua de calcetín. Sí, vale. Ok. Bueno, y
We might say dishwater.
Yeah, sí, tenemos en inglés como dishwater. Es muy semejante. Gracias, Karen. Sí, eso es. No usamos socks. Yeah, we don't use socks in the mix there, but yeah, it gets across that same idea using a different kind of colorful sort of phrase, right? See? Bien. Y tienen aquí unas ideas aquí, verdadero o falso. Hablaron principalmente del café. Voy a preguntarles lo que ustedes entendían, what you guys might have understood, ¿sí? Del video. ¿Dónde? ¿En qué país o en qué continente tenemos los orígenes del café? ¿Dónde?
Ethiopia.
Ethiopia.
Etiopía. Entonces, en África.
Sí.
En África, el origen del café es, ¿sabemos con certeza? ¿Sabemos con certeza exactamente dónde en África?
No. No
No,
exactamente.
no sabemos exactamente, pero sí sabemos que el origen del café es de África, ¿verdad? Es probable que sea Etiopía, Etiopía, pero no sabemos exactamente. ¿Cuál era el animal cuando
sí.
descubrieron el efecto, los efectos del café?
Las cabras.
Las cabras. Sí, bien. Las cabras. Había un pastor y veía las cabras y bum, 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 se estaban saltando, sí, por todas partes, con mucha energía, sí, después de masticar, sí, después de masticar el café o las bayas, the beans, sí, las bayas del café. Así es, muy bien. Etiopía. Bien. ¿Y a dónde fue? Where did it go? ¿A dónde llevaron? Where did they take? Because we don't know who exactly. ¿A dónde llevaron el café?
A Yemen.
A Yemen. Sí, a Yemen. Bien.
Yemen.
Y después...
Italia, Venecia.
Italia, a Europa, a Venecia. Venecia es Venice, ¿sí? Y en esos días no había Italia exactamente. Había ciudades en Italia, bien, como puertos para comprar y vender cosas, ¿sí? Y Venecia era una ciudad muy, muy, muy famosa en vender cosas y comprar cosas de muchos países, Entonces, sí, el café, alguien llevó, somebody took, alguien llevó el café a Venecia, a Europa. Bien. Bueno, a ver, entonces, ¿a dónde más? Where else?
Estados Unidos, Nueva York.
A Estados Unidos. Bien.
India.
A la India. ¿Alguien o
China.
China.
China,
Japón.
Japón, bien. Bueno, ¿por qué llegó a ser muy famoso el café? No, perdón. ¿Por qué llegó a ser popular el café en Estados Unidos? ¿Por qué?
¿Por qué?
¿Por qué?
Impuestos.
Cuando Rey Jorge impuestos a té.
Sí, porque Jorge, ¿quién era? ¿Quién fue Jorge? Jorge, el
Rey.
presidente,
El rey de
English
El-
king.
el rey de
Inglaterra.
Inglaterra.
Sí.
Exacto. Sí. Jorge el tercero. Jorge el tercero. El rey de Inglaterra. Sí, había impuestos. Impuestos, sí. Y Patricia nos dijo por impuestos, on account of taxes, por impuesto. Ok, entonces el café llegó a ser popular en Estados Unidos por los impuestos, por on account of, por los impuestos de Jorge III, el rey de Inglaterra. Bien. Bueno, siempre hacían café de una sola manera o había cambios en la manera de hacer café.
Ya, cambios.
Muchas
Muchas
maneras.
maneras.
Métodos.
Había muchos cambios en la manera de preparar el café, ¿sí? Tenían que tostar el café, tenían que moler. ¿Qué es moler? Grind. Moler. Moler es... Exacto. Sí, cómo funcionan los dientes. What are the functions of those teeth? Those back ones, they grind. And that's probably why they're called molars. Yeah, this probably goes back to something with Latin. Sí, el latín. Bien, entonces sí, primero sí tostaron las bayas de café. Bayas son the beans, sí, las bayas de café. Entonces molieron el café. Bien. Claro, usan. Las cafeteras, the coffee pots. Las cafeteras cambiaron con los años, ¿no?
Sí.
Sí, ok. Y ahora tenemos cafeteras como con los pads, sí. No sé cómo se dice, cómo se expresa, sí. Estas copitas, las tacitas, little cups, tacitas de café, ¿no? Bien, ok. Expreso. Espresso, no se escribe con X, ¿no? Espresso, E-S-S-P-R-E-S. Espresso es porque imprimieron, right? Because they were really, when you
Muy
express a
fuerte.
liquid, you squirt it through something. Sí, muy fuerte, sí, y es muy fuerte. Ok, y dijeron que sí, bueno, ahora, hoy en día, no en el pasado, hoy en día, se produce mucho café en Brasil. ¿Y qué más? Vietnam, qué sorpresa, ¿no? Yo no sabía eso. Se produce mucho café en Vietnam. Imagino todavía en África, sí, en Hawái.
¿Sí?
Se produce café en Hawái, se produce café en Vietnam, pero la cantidad de café que se produce en Vietnam es muchísimo café, ¿verdad? Ok. Bueno, y hablaron un poquito de el café en México y el café de olla. El café de olla. ¿Alguien sabe qué es café de olla? ¿Qué es una olla? A ver.
Coffee pot?
Clay pot. Clay
It's a
pot.
type. Clay pot. Sí. Una olla. Olla means a pot. Muy fácil. Algo no es muy complicado. Pero café de olla es algo muy específico. Y, ¿dónde está? ¿Dónde está? A ver, a ver. Eso no. Café de olla. Recipe. Y la olla es como esto, ¿ya? En olla, when they talk about this specific thing, café de olla, they're talking about an actual clay type pot in which this is heated up. Pero ¿qué tenemos con café en olla? ¿Dónde está la receta? Está aquí, está aquí. Café de olla.
Café que tiene piloncillo y canela.
Eso es, exacto. Gracias, Jane. Sí, ok. Sí pueden ver, if you can see. Sí, café de olla literally means pot coffee or coffee from a pot. This is because it was traditionally made with a large clay pot. So that whole terracotta thing was what it was originally made in, and some places will still manufacture that in a clay pot. So they, and I'll send you a link to this because it's kind of interesting. Pero, se hace de, con, claro, agua y café, pero con piloncillo. Piloncillo, no me permite. It does not let me enlarge this whole lot. Piloncillo es como brown sugar un poquito, ¿no? Piloncillo es un azúcar especial que se usa en México. Piloncillo is a special kind, and it looks almost like a peg. It's very hard, like a hard peg, like hardened. You know, when you let brown sugar get, like, and it gets rock hard, and you fight like the devil to break that sucker up because you can actually use it in a recipe. That's kind of like how piloncillo is, actually. It's a really, really hard sugar, but it usually is sort of, you see it in a sort of cylindrical form, the piloncillo. And piloncillo is used not only in coffee or café de olla, but also in certain kinds of like hot punch type drinks, or chocolate caliente, things like that. Canela, cinnamon, they also put in there, sí. Y el café. Okay, so así es. Sí tenemos, sí. Café de olla. Y hay fotos de cómo se hace. ¿Cómo se hace café de olla? Y hay lugares aquí en Arizona donde se puede comprar café de olla. Café de olla, sí. Classic cinnamon and piloncillo flavors of café de olla. Aquí en Phoenix hay 4, quizás 5 lugares aquí en Phoenix, en Roosevelt Road, en Phoenix. Deseo Coffee Shack, sí, también en Phoenix, principalmente son cafés o cafeterías en Phoenix, La Bohemia, ¿qué más? El charro hipster, a ver, okay, so if you really want something that is a good café de olla, there are places in the Phoenix area where you can get that. See, con alcohol, even with alcohol. Dulce vida, sweet life, café. Okay, voy a enviarles. I'm going to send you the nice little references there in case you're curious to try that. En caso de que tengan curiosidad de probar el café de olla. Ok, ¿tienen ustedes alguna pregunta o algo muy importante que no entendieron para nada? Is there anything really important that like you just couldn't get at all what they were talking about on the video? It's like, and we're talking big ideas, not going for every single sentence. Juanita, dime algo.
What were they saying about the cat?
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
my God.
El gato. No recuerdo. Oh, el gato en Asia, en Asia.
Muy caro.
Ah, el café más caro del mundo.
where was
No
that?
lo entiendo perfectamente porque es, ok, explicaron un poquito que hay un tipo de café que se produce en Asia, que es el café más caro del mundo. It is the most expensive coffee in the world. Y se produce con un gato,
Un animal
con
similar.
un animal similar. Has to do with the animal actually somehow excreting this thing.
Yes, because it can't digest it. It was gross.
Sí, sí.
So,
Okay.
Yo creo, opino, my opinion is, opino que Jane no quieres probar ese café.
Creo que café es
anyway.
No.
Yo no, entonces, sí, después de oír lo del gato, y no tengo deseo de probar ese café.
It's poison for cats, no?
Por lo general, me imagino que sí, estoy de acuerdo. Estoy de acuerdo. Ok, buena pregunta. Juanita, otra, sí.
No entiendo the paragraph where he was talking about two prisoners.
See,
Yeah, it's like a lot of times I can figure out the words. We figure out the words.
Okay.
Then to put it together, it's like makes no sense.
Sí, ok. Creo que estaba hablando de algún emperador o algún
El
rey
que es
Right? Yeah, see those
en China, en el
no,
oriente.
Sweden.
En
Sweden.
Sweden. Gustavo. Gustavo. Ok, vale, gracias. Sí, Gustavo. What he was talking about, I'll try to explain to you. There was, people had, okay, so a lot of people in those days, actually it was not too far off, but people noticed that the effects of caffeine. They noticed that there were effects of caffeine, and they said, kind of a drug, which it actually is. Cafeína, la cafeína sí es una droga, un tipo, ¿es okay? Un tipo de droga, okay. Vale. So his idea was to feed one prisoner just tea and one coffee and see if one guy died. Because they're prisoners. What do you care?
Yeah.
You're the guy. Eres el rey. You're the king. What do you care? There are a couple guys thrown in jail. Yeah. Who are you going to experiment on? Hoy, tristemente, en la cárcel. Yeah, the guys in the jail, they're the guys who got experimented on because, we weren't very enlightened in those days. Sometimes we're still not very enlightened, even these days. And yeah, so they gave them a steady diet of one or the other just to see who died first. And, maybe one is better for you than the other. Maybe one lets you live longer. Maybe one is like a worse drug. Hey, let's experiment. One guy just tea, one guy just coffee. That's what they were talking about. See who lives longer.
And what was the result? We didn't get Who
The
died?
guy who drank tea
The
died,
tea died
first.
first.
Yeah, the guy
Ah.
who drank tea died
He
first.
died first.
but they
Oh.
both were healthy and lived a long time. It's not like it killed them quickly.
Había,
Did it say
era,
they outlived, did they outlive the king?
¿Otra vez?
I didn't get that, but
I thought it said that the king
After.
died later.
The king died first, yeah.
Oh,
There's a hidden joke in there somewhere. Okay,
Oh,
see,
okay.
okay. Just desserts, yeah. This is what you get, buddy, for experimenting on prisoners. Okay, you kick the bucket first. See how you like them apples. Okay. Bueno, otra cosa. Any other thing where that was like maybe just a big puzzle? Sí o no?
Something here.
No. Yeah, you're really looking for the big idea. Now, I do want you to try something which for next week, which is going to be a great little video on brother and sister stories. Brother and sister stories. Do we all have sibling stories that are sometimes kind of a horror? And actually, I have to tell you that some of their sibling stories are not really. Ana es una persona muy amable. Even as mean as she was to her sister, I can guarantee you some people did worse things to me. Yeah, okay. And probably to you too. But, pero sí, tienen una, Ana y David tienen otro video sobre los hermanos. Que se trata de, is about. The way we say about, just like we say something means and we use quiere decir, in order to say something is about, we use a reflexive, se trata, with that little word de, se trata de. Ok, el video que ustedes van a ver la semana que viene, and again, you're going to be looking for the big ideas in it. And I kind of ask that you maybe not focus as much on the transcript this time as you watch their body language while they do this video. And I'm trying to pull this up here para que puedan ver. We're going to listen to maybe just some pieces of it. And I want to illustrate what I mean by watching their body language and maybe listening for some of these pause words, which don't really mean a lot. They're kind of filler words, but people use them all the time in conversation. And we kind of have, that's kind of a hump we have to get over when we're listening. I am going to put on closed captions. They're not always 100%, but we're going to watch maybe just 5 minutes, 5 minutos, nada más, ¿sí? Bien? Just to get a feel for it, but I'm going to maybe stop. So you're going to hear words like this. You might hear a lot of este and the este, you say, oh, I know that word este. Este means this, but it might not mean this. Este might be a filler word they're using in between to fill the little spaces of their conversation. Or o sea, another filler phrase, filler word. O sea is kind of like saying, I mean, okay? Por ejemplo, mi papá tenía 9 hermanos. O sea, era una familia muy grande. O sea just says, I mean, it was a big family. My dad had 9 siblings. Mi papá tenía 9 hermanos. O sea, era una familia muy grande. So osea really doesn't have a lot of meaning. It's like I mean it was a really big family. People might throw in words like digamos. Oh, well, let's say it's this when they explain something. So you may hear things like that pop up here and there. And I'm going to help you get through some of the early segments of this. And let's just kind of take this apart for a little bit. What they're going to set up is this video. Este video se trata de los hermanos, de las relaciones entre los hermanos. Hermanas, hermanos, todos, ¿sí? Y cómo se comportan, how people behave. Cuando los hermanos se llevan bien, when siblings get along. Cuando los hermanos no se llevan bien, when brothers and sisters don't get along so great, que es normal, ¿no? Es muy normal. Okay. Y vamos a ver un trocito. We're going to see a little, about a 5-minute snippet.
Las experiencias que hemos vivido con nuestros hermanos.
Experiences we have lived through with our brothers and sisters. Experiences we have gone through. And then you don't say you've gone through them in Spanish. Que hemos vivido, that we have lived. Because these are things we have lived through. Okay? Bien? Okay.
The Spanish podcast is designed to help Spanish students improve their listening and vocabulary skills, and it's made possible thanks to our Patreon community.
By joining the community, you can access the vocabulary guide and interactive transcript, bonus episodes, and monthly
Self-promotion.
activities to practice your Spanish.
If you would like to join the experience, go to patreon.com/howtospanishpodcast.
Muchas gracias a nuestros nuevos patrones.
Okay,
Frank.
momento. Let's start for real.
Bienvenidos a un episodio más de How to Spanish Podcast. El día de hoy vamos a hablar de algunas experiencias que hemos tenido con hermanos.
Oh, we're going to talk about some experiences. Wait a minute. Hemos tenido.
We had with.
We've had.
We have.
And Jane, this goes back to the question you first asked me about me he perdido. Experiencias que hemos tenido. So when you hear that, what you should grab onto is that little word tenido. And tenido sounds like it's a verb, and it sounds like it came from tener. So experiences that not right now, experiences we
Had.
Yeah. And literally experiences that we have had. The we have is the hemos and the had is tenido. Have had. Algunas experiencias que hemos tenido con hermanos.
What tense is that? Is that
That is called a present perfect tense.
okay?
It is called present perfect because hemos is a present conjugation of haber, a verb called haber. And haber is the idea of to have, like we use, oh, he has grown so much. I have drunk 2 cups of tea. I have seen that movie before. They have not done their homework. She has finished. Oh, she has finished dinner. That kind of have, not the have of own, possess, have it in your hands, but it's the have we combine with a second verb that really tells us the action. We have had. I have seen.
So where does the tenido come from?
The tenido is the had part. Have had.
The past.
Okay.
Present.
And that is the perfect
I see.
part of the present perfect. It is the perfect because it is a participle. It is that little animal, that little animal that we call a past participle. So what does hemos tenido mean? It means we have had. It doesn't mean we have right now. It means we, in the past, had something. Okay? So when you see any combinations with hemos tenido, he tenido, I have had, como por ejemplo, he tenido, yo personalmente he tenido 5 carros durante la vida. He tenido 5 carros. I have had 5 cars. Okay. Like saying, I have owned 5 cars. Esta noche hemos visto 2 películas. Tonight we have seen, hemos visto, we have seen, visto. Visto comes from ver. So it's 2 words working together to say not it's happening right now, but it
Happened.
Okay.
Can happen.
It has happened. Okay. Vale.
Y es
Continuamos.
muy chistoso pensar quiénes son los hermanos, ¿no?
And it's very funny to think about who are your brothers and sisters. When he talks about hermanos here, it's not just brothers, it's brothers and sisters.
Obviamente es parte de tu familia muy cercana, pero
And obviously it's a part of your very
Close family.
close family. Cercana comes from cerca, close by, close to you.
Family circle.
como tu propia familia, tú no escogiste a tus hermanos, ¿no?
And now here comes a true past tense. Not 2 verbs working together like hemos tenido. No, no, no. No escogiste a tus hermanos. You did not choose your brothers and sisters. Escoger is to choose. But he doesn't say tú escoges. Said, no escogiste. You did not choose. And that puts it in the true past. But we only use 1 verb for that true past, or they call it a simple past. They actually have maybe 3 or 4 grammar-ease terms for that word, for that past idea of escogiste, but we call it preterite. Preterite just means the action is done and over. You didn't pick your family is what that says. Tú no escogiste a tus hermanos. You didn't choose your brothers and sisters. Okay, so you're going to be hearing some iste things. You're going to be hearing some past things.
Y eso lo hace un poco interesante porque al final te desarrollas con alguien que sí es tu compañero, digamos.
Oh, here's a digamos. You grow up with somebody that is your companion. Digamos, oh, let's say, digamos is just a throw it in there word. Digamos is a filler word. It's an it's a, digamos, let's say cercano, somebody near, close to you. Digamos just means, oh, let's say, for example.
Cercano, pero que no necesariamente es tu mejor amigo, ¿no?
Somebody you grew up with very close by, but they're maybe not your best friend. Muy cercano. Tus hermanos son muy cercanos. They're very, very close, but maybe you're not best friends with them.
Esto no quiere decir que nuestro
No quiere decir. It doesn't mean. Esto no quiere decir. This doesn't mean.
caso sea así. Creo que
It doesn't mean that our case is like that.
ambos, Ana y yo, compartimos que los dos tenemos muy buenas experiencias con nuestros hermanos. Pasamos
He says that both of us, we've had good experiences with our brothers and sisters, okay? You're going to probably hear some snippets of 2 kinds of past tenses. So I kind of want to preview, and actually this is not going to preview the hemos tenido part, but I want to preview a little bit of it. Becomes when you start to hear stories about the past. And I'm going to want you to, after you listen to their video, think of a funny story and prepare a very short, like 3 or 4 sentences, nada más, nothing else. Some little story involving a brother or a sister, or if you didn't grow up with a sibling, maybe a cousin, or, you know, something, somebody like that. Okay, so after you watch that video, because it's about funny stories of people that we're stuck with growing up, okay, whoever that may be, some kind of a relative story. What I want to show you is that just a way to listen for some of these past tenses and not to feel that you have to recognize every single word, but maybe recognize some of the endings to get, again, the big picture. Ooh, and I think I need to share the screen again. Sí, una vez más. Okay.
Soy Ana de How to Spanish Podcast y How to Learn Spanish. Y en este video vamos a seguir estudiando el pasado, ahora el pretérito.
Okay, and we're going to
Instantáneo. Así
okay,
son los.
here's a way to think about preterite. There are 2 kinds of past tenses, and you may hear them both.
En esta ocasión vamos a hablar del pretérito.
Pretérito is the true past tense. It means an event, it's over, done, happened fast.
Primero te voy a explicar cuándo lo usamos y después vamos a ver la conjugación, porque no es tan fácil como el imperfecto. Así que te recomiendo que estudies ese otro video primero. A diferencia del imperfecto, el pretérito se usa como una fotografía.
Pretérito, it kind of comparing a photograph, a still photo, to a video is a good way to think about the preterite versus the other past tense I'm going to show you, which is the imperfect. Preterite is like taking a still shot.
Fotografías son instantáneas, no es como un video en donde puedes ver muchos detalles y detenerte en cada detalle. Las fotos es rápido, instantáneo. Así son los verbos pretéritos. Entonces, todo evento en el pasado.
So preterite tense is like that still photo or that still shot. Not a video, but one picture. One point in time.
Muy grande, especial, digno de una fotografía, usamos el pretérito. Por ejemplo, casarse, divorciarse, tener un hijo, comprar.
When we talk about an event in your life that happens this many times, we use that. So you didn't choose your brothers and sisters. They put that in pretérito. You didn't choose, because when you choose, you pick something out. And boom, kind of done, right? Certain events lend themselves to that more easily, like got married. Well, it's kind of, you know, you do it once and now it's done, right? Okay.
Comprar una casa, romperse un hueso.
Oh, break a bone, that happens. Boom, right?
Adoptar un perro.
Adopt your pet.
Viajar a otro país. Todas esas cosas vamos a usar la forma pretérita. Entonces podríamos decir que usamos el tiempo pretérito cuando hablamos de eventos que sucedieron una sola vez en el tiempo, en un
So we use preterite for things that happen just one time. That's one of the uses of
espacio
preterite.
de tiempo. Por ejemplo, graduarse de la escuela.
Like graduating.
Tú te gradúas muchas veces, ¿no? Te gradúas de cada escuela diferente. Pero aún así no te gradúas de todas las escuelas el mismo año o el mismo tiempo. Entonces usamos pretérito. Es lo mismo con cosas como casarse. Tal vez te vas a casar más de una vez, pero te
So maybe you get married more than once, but you know, one at a time, right?
casas
So
una vez por separado. Obviamente hay cosas que solo suceden una vez en la vida. Por ejemplo, tal vez en toda tu vida tú solamente viajaste a México una vez. Entonces usarías el pretérito. Sin embargo, el segundo uso, también usamos el pretérito cuando algo sucedió en un tiempo específico y de.
So also, if you want to say like on a specific day or at a specific time, something happened, that's another reason to use pretérito, because again, it's that snapshot. not the video, but the snapshot. Okay. I'm going to show you what the endings will look like with pretérito, just so you're kind of prepared for that when you actually see it. And it doesn't mean that you have to memorize them. It means that you want to recognize it when you hear it. Maybe not be able to say it, use it yet at this point, but recognize it. So here are the endings. We take off the AR for AR. They're going to fall into two categories. AR verbs do one thing. ER and IR verbs are going to do a different thing. Okay. So, aquí, here we go. Voy a engrandecer esto. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So here are endings that when you hear it, these are going to mean, oh, it happened and it was over with. Is an ending for, these are AR verb endings, right? For yo, like trabajé, I worked. Trabajé una hora, I worked 1 hour. And now I'm done with it. So it's trabajé. Okay. Trabajaste. Trabajaste. You worked. Haste is an ending for AR verbs, but it's a tú ending. Oh, but not regular o like hablo, not regular o like como, vivo, entiendo, estudio, and o with an accent mark, which means you got to punch that syllable more than everything else. So not the word trabajo, but trabajó. Trabajó. Trabajó is he worked, she worked. O is an AR ending for one person, talking about one person, did that in the past and over with. Aron is the ending for more than one person. Ellos or ellas or ustedes, right? Amos, yay, it looks just like the present tense because it does, that's it. And that's the nosotros form. So that's the easy one for AR verbs. For ER and IR verbs, they're going to share the same form. ER and IR verbs will use the same kinds of endings to say did that in the past and over with. The yo form will be an I, like comí. Comer changes to comí. I ate. Not I am eating now. I ate. Done with it. Comiste. You ate. Okay. Iste. And notice, aste is a tú and iste is a tú. Io, I-O. Instead of just an O that you punch, it's an io. Io, I and an O, but we punch the O. He ate, comió, comió, he ate. Comieron. Instead of aron for they, ellos, we use ieron, like comieron. Instead of amos, like with nosotros, it's imos. Okay, so all the ER verbs and IR verbs, if they mean something that is done and over with, it's over with, boom, did it, finished, done. They're going to use these. And I'll send you all these little charts. Now, the oddball thing is that preterite has lots of irregular oddball verbs. It's kind of a hard tense to learn in the big idea, but she gives you an idea of some things that wind up being in preterite a lot, like somebody was born, because happens, done, right? Somebody died, whoop, okay, done, right? Somebody got married, well, that ceremony only took so long. It didn't take a super long time to do it, right? Divorciarse, sign that paper, out of there, right? Graduarse, get that diploma, boom, out of there. Tener un bebé, thank God you do that once, it's done, the kid is out. Okay. Comprar una casa, well, you buy something, you bought. So whenever we say got, was born, died, got married, got divorced, graduated, had a baby, bought a house, won a prize, started something. Oh, I started the laundry at 8 o'clock. I started dinner at 4 o'clock, right? All those things lend themselves nicely to pretérito. Okay, bien. So I'm going to send you these little charts that you can kind of have. I would say print these out and kind of have it hovering when you listen. So be listening for that. You may also, sadly, hear not just that tense, but you may hear verbs with things that are not haste, o. You may hear aba things or ia things attached to a verb where it's like, wow, that looks like trabajar. It is trabajar, but they may be expressing imperfecto, which is a different past tense. The imperfecto is used very differently in different situations than the pretérito. So when you're listening to them tell about the past, you may hear them flipping into these different tenses a little bit. Okay, you don't have to be able to speak using it at this point, but recognize it when you see it. Imperfecto does not talk about an event and easily over in a specified amount of time. Imperfecto talks about how something used to be. Something that you used to do many times as a habit. I used to play in the yard. I used to drive my kids to school. I used to walk my kid to the bus stop. Oh, I used to work in that building. I worked there for a really long time. I'm not telling you how long. I just worked there for a very long time. We used to take walks with the kids on Sunday in the park. Anything you did over and over and over again can't be pretérito because it happened, I don't know how often, a lot, over and over. So it can't be pretérito. It's got to be what we call imperfecto. Imperfect because I don't know how often. It just a lot. Often. My brother used to climb trees. That's imperfecto. But he broke his arm. That's pretérito. So Spanish uses two different kinds of verb endings, even though they're both past. They're both done, but they're done in different ways. So these endings, when you hear them, mean something happened often or used to happen. And AR verbs are going to get endings that sound like you're stammering or blabbering. Abba, 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 abba. Anytime you hear an abba, 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 it comes from an AR verb. Trabajaba, trabajabas, trabajaba. Same one. Wow. Yo and LA, usted use the same one. Trabajaban, they worked. Trabajábamos. So what's the difference between saying trabajé, I worked? Trabajé una hora, I worked 1 hour. That's a nice, compact, easy, it fits in that little 1 hour time. So it's over and done in an hour. I have to use pretérito. Trabajé una hora. I worked for 1 hour. Boom, over with. But trabajaba en ese edificio. I used to work in that building. And the focus is not how long, just I used to. Used to is the aba ending. Did it a lot, over and over again is the aba ending. Yay. So aba is like the video because it talks about something you see as continuous motion. Imperfecto is used to talk about habits, talk about used to do stuff. Did things many, many times, but we don't know how much. And we use imperfecto to describe things. So if it's not an AR verb and I still want to use imperfecto, what do I use? I use a really easy set of endings, ia endings. I still take off the ER or I take off the IR and I use ia endings. So comer, por ejemplo, Comer turns into comía. I used to eat, or I was eating. Comías, you used to eat. Okay, you look at your little sister and you say, ja, comías con la boca abierta. You used to eat with your mouth open when you were a little kid. Así es, okay? Comía, comías, comía, comían, comíamos. So here's what I want you to notice. These little endings still kind of follow a pattern. When you have an N at the end of a verb, it means they. They is the subject of a sentence. Trabajaban, like trabajan gets an N ending. Trabajaban gets an N ending. Comían, comían, they used to eat, gets an N ending. And the most thing always says it's a we thing. So there are certain patterns you can pick up even if you don't know. So they're going to be using a lot of past tense in this video. So I would say just print out this imperfecto idea. And imperfecto is great to use because it has very, very few irregulars. And it's going to tell us that we use imperfecto describir, to describe. That's why she says that imperfecto is more like watching a video than seeing a still shot of a photo. Imperfecto is used to describe emotions, talk about opinions, talk about what something looked like, what something really used to be like. Okay, it talks about habits or repeated actions, the imperfecto. Okay, and she's got a little exercise. I would say don't worry about the exercise. We'll do this exercise together next week and kind of take that apart. But imperfecto is like the video, watching the video of something that was happening in the past. Whereas you'll hear them using some pretérito where they talk about events that happened at a specific time and boom, over with. Not, we used to go out for ice cream every Sunday, but ooh, that day we ate ice cream. We ate ice cream on Sunday, one specific day. So they convey very different ideas. The snapshot, the one-time event versus a description or a repeated event in the past. Okay, bien?
Oh, see.
This is a very conceptual thing. English does not do this because we fill in other words. In English, for imperfecto, instead of saying, I worked at this place, you might just say, I worked at this place, or you might express that in English by adding in extra words like, we used to eat at the dinner table. We used to, meaning it happened a lot. Or we were eating, meaning I'm just describing what was going on. Oh, they used to work downtown. They were working downtown. That focuses more on the idea of this thing was going on for a long time, but it doesn't really close the chapter on that book or close the chapter on that story. It doesn't confine that they were working to a specific like number of years or number of hours. Okay, está bien? So I want you to listen for the big idea. They're going to share some silly things they used to do to their brothers and sisters. I want you to maybe think of some little sibling memory, and I'll send you an idea, un ejemplo. I'll send you an idea of mine in the recap of today's class so that you have an idea of where you want to go. I'm not going to ask you to use a lot of complicated tenses, just like pick one simple thing, but talk about some kind of memory you have with a sibling after you read my example. ¿Está bien?
Sí.
¿Vale? Okay, so you'll go for the big idea. I'll give you a list of vocab words to work off of, and I'll send you the transcripts, but I kind of want you to watch for their body language more than really following the transcript real strictly, because a lot of times when you see them and hear them saying, oh, that digamos, let's say as a pause word, if you just see digamos in the middle of a sentence, it doesn't come across as this is a filler word. But when you see their body language and them talking back and forth, you get the idea of they're saying, I mean, oh, you know, those little filler words will make more sense. Bien?
Sí.
Okay. Magnifico. It'll be a little hard, but you'll get the big idea in most cases. Bien? Okay? ¿Vale? ¿Hay alguna pregunta? Any kind of question before we send off for the day? No?
No.
So I'm going to ask you to venture a little into seeing what happened and listen for the big part of the verb. You know, the ending just tells you when it happened, if it's now or ago, right? But that big main part of the verb. So in other words, when you're looking at a verb like trabajaban, or you're hearing a word like trabajaban, you hear that main part of the trabajar. You get the idea of work, but now we're going to be saying worked or was working. Bien?
Sí.
Okay. Vale, magnifico. And we may have a little more to take apart in that video when we come back to next week to make sure you understand all the parts of it. So scribble little notes when you don't understand something. Scribble liberally and ask. Okay. Bien?
Bien.
Todo bien. Okay. Magnifico. I will send you off with some structures then, and hopefully we'll get some fun little stories, but really brief stories about maybe some childhood stuff. Okay.